What we did for the president was 2 weeks before he announced his candidacy, he realized that probably needed to look at the internet as a way of organizing. He had a list of about 250,000 people from his 2004 Senate race, but hadn't really thought much about infrastructure. That said, the guy was a community organizer and realized that if there was any chance that he was going to beat Hillary Clinton, it was going to happen door to door in Iowa, for example. And so, first meeting with David Plouffe, the campaign manager, he said, here's my idea, here's my goal. A sign-up happens in Iowa today. How do we get it such that within 3 days of that sign-up, a real person gets in touch with that sign-up? So how do you bridge that divide between the digital channel and the real-world organizing? Go figure it out. And so we had built a technology platform and a bit of best practices and certainly a team that 2 weeks before he announced in Springfield, Illinois, we were able to mobilize and put things to work. The basics here for all the talk of Twitter and MySpace and Facebook and everything else, email is sort of old school. We all do it, we all get it. How do you make it stand out from the rest? We created an email narrative with characters that you all received. You met David Plouffe, you met David Axelrod, you met Joe Biden, you met the candidate, you met the wife. The wife, as I mentioned earlier, her emails open better than her husband's. People like hearing from her more, and she writes her own email copy. So it is very personal. But there is, over the many thousands of emails that were sent, it reads like a book. You're telling a story, short bursts of chapters, essentially. We have a bound copy of every email that was sent. And it assumed that the person receiving it doesn't read every email. You all have better things to do. But you also have to assume with that, one who reads message number 1 and may check in again at message number 5, you got to know what you're checking into. You got to sort of sustain that narrative such that you're not schizophrenically jumping from one issue to another, but you're instead realizing that even a really well-honed list may open at 30-35%. That implicitly means 1 out of 4 of the messages are being read by an individual. How do you keep their involvement throughout? So that's points 1 and 2 here. Don't forget who you're talking to, what they did for you. If you came through the Google AdWord that was about the environment, the first couple messages you get should be in response to that. You shouldn't be dumped into a pool and talked one-to-many. I advocate a lot against the email newsletter. How many of you are either involved in the weekly or monthly production of a newsletter or the recipients of newsletters? Everyone. We all get thousands of them. It works for some organizations. I would argue very, very few. And especially for fundraising, it just doesn't work. Because what a newsletter means, I'm going to treat you all the same. Regardless of how you interact with me tonight, my follow-up is going to be all the same. And so what we tend to preach with organizations, got 100 people in the room. I'm going to ask you to do something. 15 or 20 of you will do it on a good day. That 15 or 20 of you deserve to be treated differently tomorrow than the 80 of you who didn't do it. That's the start of your segmentation. So the second message we tend to call it sort of thank or spank email. Thank you to the 20 of you who do it. Shame on you for those of you who didn't. See, I'm listening. That sort of dynamic has to be created online just as it would be offline. So the summary thing here is lowering the barrier to entry while raising the level of expectations. So the best example of that is, this is David Plouffe, who was our boss on the campaign manager. Weekly, to a segment of the people who expressed an interest deep into the numbers, the strategy, the polling, he would pop up his video camera from his computer just like mine, record without edit. Here's what's happening in Florida. 5 minutes, YouTube video, put it out there. That sort of access that we gave through the online channel to the campaign, direct to the campaign manager, was never seen before. The polling numbers were wide open. The strategies were wide open. The goal was to win the election, and everyone reading that email had a job to do. Where'd this come from? Completely off of the radar, a call came in to someone who was one of our copywriters. It was his uncle in Ohio who, before the primary in Ohio, flashback, you remember, Barack Obama did well in urban areas. Hillary Clinton was very strong in rural areas. Ohio uncle wants to paint his barn and asked for the correct Pantone colors for the barn logo. Very good, want to have the proper branding. So it came to think, okay, so we can geo-target to ag-producing rural counties in Indiana, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Wisconsin, sort of the upcoming Super Tuesday battles. This is the uncle's barn. the charismatic cow looking at the camera. 1,500 barns were painted in the weeks thereafter that message, simply by saying, here's a community of people we want to have a special campaign to, online and off. Allow them, use the fodder of that uncle to generate this, give them instructions, ask them to upload their pictures. Suddenly you're rewarding people for taking offline action. You're identifying super activists who want to do this extra, admittedly crazy thing in the middle of February. Nonetheless, this is a great media story that happened on the backs of enthused email recipients in the run-up to a primary election.